The Association of Housing Corporations of Nigeria, AHCN, recently held a special strategy session in Abuja themed Transforming Housing Corporations for Effectiveness and Sustainability in the Emerging Real Estate Market. The session was held alongside the association's 112th council meeting. AHCN President, Estate Surveyor Eno Obongha, in his presentation titled Renewed Hope Housing Agenda, Challenges to Opportunities, urged housing corporations to take advantage of the federal government's Renewed Hope Housing Agenda.
This is a strategic session, and I like the way we are going. I have told you the most important thing is this stakeholder identification. And yes, and then I ask again, does your state have a state housing policy? My state has one, and it spells out the role that the state government will play, which is that one of them is that when a site is identified for housing development, the road to the site is to be handled by the government of the state. So that's why I mentioned the Commissioner for Works. The Commissioner for Works is a standing order in cross-river state. Once a project, whether it is a private developer or the state apparatus, once you want to build a housing estate, the Commissioner for, this is what the governor has said, that the Commissioner for Works to ensure that an access road is created to that site. But the internal roads within the estate itself is the responsibility of the developer. Let the project cost include the internal roads and the infrastructure. And in some of these projects, even the fencing of the estate is included in that. So I think that is a very important. And then I have told you again, you cannot do mass housing alone. You must involve other stakeholders.
He noted that 70% of housing corporations are currently inactive and criticized the decision by some governors to merge state housing corporations with ministries of housing, calling it violation of the national housing policy.
I discovered that most of the housing corporations are inactive because they are state government institutions, and most of the state governors do not use them, and they leave them to be redundant, which is not proper. So we felt that there should be a technical, or what I'll call a strategic session, which we have scheduled for today and tomorrow, to enable, it's an in-house retreat, sort of. What is the problem with us? What do we do moving forward? Papers have been presented, as you have seen, which have highlighted the problems that the housing corporations are experiencing, and some solutions are being preferred. That we should identify stakeholders in our states and recognize, since being state government institutions, we should recognize the state governors as the promoters, as the number one stakeholders in this business. The commissioners for lands or housing, who are the members of ESCO, because the housing corporations are parastatals under the commissioners. Those are the people who will talk in ESCO, to make them interested, that they should create proper relationship between the MDs or general managers with their commissioners. And then they should also ensure that they create land banks. And these land banks they are creating should be in places that are viable. Places that are viable are places that we have off-takers. Take, for instance, if there's a polytechnic sited in a place, you know there are going to be both academic and non-academic workers, and those workers are NHF compliant. and that they should identify federal mortgage bank institutions in every state capital so that those people will help them in getting off-takers in profiling using the NHF template. If you build houses and they are not taken, you have not succeeded. But if you build houses, immediately all of them are taken, the loan is taken off your head.
The Executive Secretary of AHCN, Mr. Toye Eniola, highlighted major setbacks facing housing corporations, including political interference, lack of autonomy, and inadequate funding. He called for a total shift from the business-as-usual mindset and stressed the importance of better information management, profitability, operational risk control, and business-oriented approaches to housing delivery.
When you look at the 2024 State of the Nation Housing Address that was presented by Mr. President, out of the 50 members organizations in 36 states of Nigeria, only 7 were able to complete 100 housing units and above for a whole year. Only 7. In 2023, in the same address, only 2 completed minimum of 100 units and above, while in 2022, only 6 housing corporations completed same 100 units and above. This is to tell us the sorry state of our housing corporations. We have names, we have capability, but we are not using it. And in the process, majority of them are becoming redundant. Yes, there are several problems confronting them. And I quickly list some of these problems. They include political interferences. We all know what happened.
In his remarks, Mr. Sani Yakubu, National Coordinator of the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, MOFI, Real Estate Investment Fund, MRIF, explained the fund's vision to deliver 1 million new homes annually through blended finance and investor partnerships. He invited housing corporations to express interest and submit land assets and housing projects for evaluation and possible support.
Bring those houses that you haven't sold. Nigerians have made deposits for them. They have not been able to complete the balance. Let us create the mortgages. Are you a housing delivery company? Yes, you are. I know you are. And we give you an off-take guarantee. So that if you're going to a First Bank, if you're going to a GT, if you are going to a development finance institution, you can say to them, we have the guarantee of the federal government of Nigeria. Now, why should you boast about this? Of the 250 billion, 25% of it is set aside to cash back the money, the guarantees that we are giving. So when we are giving you a guarantee, it's not a guarantee that you suffer to encash. It's a cash. We have close to 40 billion that will be in a deposit, being invested round and round in a near liquid asset, such that if one of our guarantees should crystallize, we can pay it from there.
Meanwhile, Mr. Oladakbo Fakeye, General Manager of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, FMBN, reaffirmed FMBN's commitment to funding both construction and off-take of houses, urging housing corporations to coordinate access to housing for civil and public servants.
The Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria is a development finance institution that is set up to meet the needs of housing finance, particularly. And when you talk about housing finance, you're talking about both the construction or the housing production side of the market, as well as the demand side of the market, which is the off-take. So we come in as a unique development finance institution to address both needs of the market. We manage a national housing fund, which is funded by contributions from Nigerian workers across the country. And the purpose of the fund is to create long-term funds that can be applied for mortgage lending. Necessarily, when you fund a mortgage, it has to be long-term. so that it becomes affordable to the beneficiary. So we use the proceeds of the fund to provide financing for real estate developers, whether they're in the public sector or in the private sector. And on the other side, we also fund mortgages and offtake of the houses that we have funded the construction of. But we do beyond the houses we funded in terms of mortgage financing. So anybody, any Nigerian who is a contributor to the National Housing Fund, who has interest in buying a house, can approach the bank through a primary mortgage bank for funding for mortgage financing in the country.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts. On Facebook, Housing TV Africa. On Twitter, Housing TV Africa. Instagram, Housing TV Africa.